Released in 1993 at the height of Robin Williams' career, Mrs. Doubtfire tells the story of voice actor and family man Daniel Hillard, who due to his irresponsible ways finds himself going through a divorce with his more business-focused and career-driven wife Miranda, played by Sally Field. Where in an attempt to still be in his children's lives, he disguises himself as a well-mannered, elderly British woman called Mrs. Doubtfire and becomes their nanny, in which, due to his now posh and no-nonsense ways and voice change, fools everyone, but with comedic shenanigans along the way, in this funny but yet heartfelt movie, which co-stars a very young pre-Bond Pierce Brosnan, along with being directed by Home Alone and Harry Potter director Chris Columbus. So today we are returning to the 90s to explore the comedy fan favourite Mrs. Doubtfire, the Robin Williams movie that everyone seems to love. So let's not waste any time and check out 10 things that you didn't know about Mrs. Doubtfire.
Look at this. My first day as a woman, I'm getting hot flashes.
Number 10. Mrs. Doubtfire is based on a book. Yep, long before the movie, Mrs. Doubtfire was causing chuckles on the printed page, in a British novel that was published in 1987 by author Anne Fine. In the UK, the book was titled Madame Doubtfire, and in the US, alias Madame Doubtfire, and was even nominated for several awards. There are, as you can imagine, several differences between the original book and movie. For example, in the movie, Daniel is a voice actor, whereas in the novel, he's simply an actor, and even claims that he has a job as a nude model for life drawing classes. But the most glaring difference is the fact that in the novel, Daniel's Mrs. Doubtfire disguise wasn't actually very good. Unlike the movie where Robin Williams almost literally transforms himself into a little old lady, in the book, Daniel's disguise is so bad, his two older children, Lydia and Chris, know straight away that their new nanny is in fact their father in disguise. I personally prefer the idea that Daniel's disguise is so convincing it fools everyone better than the idea that it's just a crappy disguise put together, as it makes his ex-wife Miranda, you know, the smart and intelligent one in the relationship, seem a bit thick. Number 9. Casting possibilities. With a budget of $25 million, in the early 90s, 20th Century Fox agreed to bring Mrs. Doubtfire onto the big screen. But the question is, who could take on the role? Anne Fine, who wrote the original novel, wanted Warren Beatty to play the part of Daniel and Mrs. Doubtfire, because she thought it would be a funny contrast to the womanizing stories and rumours associated with the actor. Well, according to the research I've done anyway. Tim Allen was offered the role along with several other parts in the movie but turned them all down. But the project then became a Robin Williams vehicle, which completely took the project to the next level, and Williams gave so much to the role and movie in general and entirely made it his own. Williams' fame was reaching great heights at the time thanks to starring in Good Morning Vietnam, Dead Poet Society and Hook, so he was a sure win for enticing movie audiences. Actress Blake Lively auditioned to play the part of Daniel's youngest daughter Natalie, where before her audition, her father explained that she wouldn't be reading with Robin Williams but his twin brother in order to calm her nerves down. But during the audition, she found out that it was indeed Robin Williams she was reading with, which led to the audition to be a disaster, so young child star Mara Wilson was cast in the role. Number 8. Makeup tests. One of the most amazing aspects about Mrs. Doubtfire is the transformation of Robin Williams, how a man in his 40s can transform into a lady in her 80s. So getting the look, voice and body language was very important for the movie, of which required several makeup tests. They tried several looks to give Mrs. Doubtfire. In some of the early tests, she looked a bit younger than how the character actually looked in the movie, along with trying out different wigs. I can't put my finger on it, but the character just doesn't look right without the glasses we see her wear in the movie. I don't know, it's like the glasses complete the look. Also, I can't help but feel like the original wig just didn't make the character look elegant enough, but more sort of run down. They also tried out other looks and costumes and hats to give Mrs. Doubtfire, till finally the look evolved into how we all know and love in the final film. Also, I love seeing Robin Williams testing the makeup by interacting with his child stars without them knowing it's him. It's just adorable.
Do you know what that means?
What?
I don't.
Number 7. Location. Mrs. Doubtfire was entirely filmed in San Francisco, where the home that was used in the movie has now gone on to become a tourist destination. However, San Francisco wasn't the original choice for filming, as originally Mrs. Doubtfire was to be set and filmed in Chicago. After all, at that time, many comedy movies were filmed in the great city of Chicago, including Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Home Alone. However, during Mrs. Doubtfire's production, it was discovered that 2 new TV shows were currently being filmed in Chicago and had a lease on the city. Those 2 shows being ER and Chicago Hope, which meant that Mrs. Doubtfire couldn't be filmed there unless they wait for the lease to run out. But hey, in the movie industry, time is money, so they then shifted the story to San Francisco. And having the movie filmed in San Francisco just gives it that extra magical touch, as visually it's a very unique city. In fact, Mrs. Doubtfire was my introduction to San Francisco, a city that I have now actually visited several times. Number 6. One iconic hilarious scene was going to be scarier. One of the most hilarious scenes in Mrs. Doubtfire is when Daniel's welfare worker turns up at his house to check up on his progress, with his worker also believing him to be living with his sister, who is Mrs. Doubtfire. However, after Daniel loses Mrs. Doubtfire's face, he has to quickly improvise, to which he uses icing of a cake as a sort of face cream mask to hide his face.
Hello! Ah!
It's a brilliant scene that catches me off guard every time. However, originally the Daniel character was to rub an avocado all over his face instead. But when it came time to filming the scene, it was felt that the avocado just looked too horrific and scary than it did funny. So naturally, cake icing was used instead.
Oh, I'm sorry to frighten you, dear. I must look like a yeti in this getup.
Number 5. The movie led to one of its stars being expelled from high school. It seems that Robin Williams was really involved in the making of Mrs. Doubtfire and would go above and beyond for the movie. Not only did it take nearly 5 hours to apply his Mrs. Doubtfire makeup, but he also improvised many of his scenes. And to make sure his makeup was convincing, would even go out in public in his Mrs. Doubtfire costume to make sure that no one recognised him, and supposedly even went to a sex shop on one occasion. Williams was so committed to the movie, he even tried to help one of its young co-stars. Lisa Jacob, who played older daughter Lydia, was expelled from her Toronto high school on the account that she had to take 5 months out of attending school in order to film Mrs. Doubtfire, which led to the school terminating her as one of its students. Williams, trying to help the young actress, wrote a letter to the school, asking them not to expel the young star, and to give her a chance as being a student once again after the movie's shoot. Which, when you think about it, is really kind and heartwarming, and shows the true kindness and care that Robin Williams had. She still got expelled though. Number 4. Deleted character. As with most movies, Mrs. Doubtfire has its fair share of deleted scenes, of which, after the sad passing of Robin Williams, even more deleted scenes have turned up, which were actually quite emotional, and would have taken Mrs. Doubtfire into more serious and dramatic territories, other than its fun family comedy image that we all know today. However, not only does Mrs. Doubtfire have a ton of deleted scenes, but even an entire character was deleted. That being the Hillards' busybody neighbour, Gloria, a fiery character who doesn't seem to have any patience for the Daniel character, whom, under his Mrs. Doubtfire disguise, convinces the irate neighbour to use dog piss to make her garden look better. The part was played by Polly Holliday, who previously played Mrs. Deagle in Gremlins, of which was written by Mrs. Doubtfire's director, Chris Columbus. The character does show up briefly in the final film, but originally she did have more of a character subplot.
What kind of mother puts dog piss on her babies?
Number 3. Original ending. Mrs. Doubtfire has somewhat a bittersweet ending, in which after Daniel is being exposed by his wife as being Mrs. Doubtfire, and ordered by the courts to have supervised visitation with his children, his wife Miranda still allows Daniel to be with his children and share joint custody while the characters are still going through their divorce. However, during the movie's production, the studio wanted a more happy fairy tale ending, in which Daniel and Miranda would get back together and not go through their separation. In other words, to give it a happy Hollywood ending. However, Mrs. Doubtfire's scriptwriter, Randy Mayhem Singer, was so against the idea, he left the project, to which fellow scriptwriter Leslie Dixon was brought on board to write in Mrs. Doubtfire's more happily ever after ending. However, once the script was rewritten, it was decided that Singer was right, and that the end would be better if the character's divorce was remaining in check. Number 2, UK rating controversy. Mrs. Doubtfire seems like a pretty harmless and fun family movie of oddball comedy and innocence. However, the British were not amused and felt that Mrs. Doubtfire wasn't so harmless and should be given a stronger rating, as it was given what was called a 12 certificate, which meant that no one under the age of 12 would be allowed to attend theatres to see Mrs. Doubtfire, a film that is basically a kids' movie. Local cinemas supposedly fought the 12 certificate rating on the account that so many disappointed families were turning up to watch Mrs. Doubtfire but then being refused entry. Mrs. Doubtfire's rating was reduced to a PG after 3 lines of dialogue were cut that the British censors thought contained too much sexual innuendo. However, as late as 2012, when Mrs. Doubtfire was released on Blu-ray in the UK, the uncut version was released, to which got reverted back to its 12 certificate, along with its 2014 cinematic re-release.
I mean, come on! Isn't Britain the country that gave us Harry Potter? A movie for kids with kids dabbling in witchcraft and fighting satanic monsters? I mean, what's their beef with Mrs. Doubtfire?
Number 1, failed sequel. Mrs. Doubtfire was a huge success when it was released and made $441 million in the box office, and was going up against Jurassic Park, which from a marketing perspective seems crazy. But hey, Mrs. Doubtfire gave the T-Rex from Spielberg's dinosaur classic a run for its money, with it coming at number 2 in the box office. The fame and riches of Robin Williams continued after Mrs. Doubtfire, as 2 years later he starred in the equally popular and successful Jumanji. However, in 2001, a planned sequel for Mrs. Doubtfire started to take shape, with a script being written in 2003. But Robin Williams was unhappy with the script, to which in 2006 rewrites took place, with it set to be released in 2007. But Williams still wasn't convinced, which led to the project being scrapped entirely. The sequel was to once again revolve around Robin Williams disguising himself as the elderly nanny, although I don't know how that would have worked, as by the end of the original movie everyone knew that Daniel and Mrs. Doubtfire were one and the same.
The whole time you would... The whole time?
Oh, I'm sorry, Miranda, please.
But in a sad turn of events, a sequel seemed to get back on track in 2014, with even original director Chris Columbus returning. However, it got cancelled again after the sad and tragic passing of Robin Williams. A sad day when the world mourned the loss of a funny man.
Anyway guys, that was my exploration into Mrs. Doubtfire. I hope you liked it and maybe even learned something new. Mrs. Doubtfire shows just how funny, committed and full of joy Robin Williams was, and is a testament to his talents. So I will never get tired of watching this classic movie. Anyway, I'm Minty, and thus far, Robin Williams is the only person to throw a piece of fruit at James Bond's head. See ya!